Hi, Spirit Warriors. You are watching The Tattooed Psychic. Thank you for tuning in today. Today, I want to talk about grief and how we survive it as spiritualists and as healers and as women and as human beings and as spiritual beings having this human journey or whatever you want to call it. And I will admit this cycle has been a little rough, but you know what? We have rough cycles all the time. We do. Well, that's why we're called Spirit Warriors. We manage to fight through the battles, the demons, the grief, the abuse, the awakenings, the healings we have to do to become the healers that we are meant to be and the human beings we're meant to be. It doesn't even matter if you're a healer or not, right? But what I have found is I went through a heavy cycle in January. If you watch my podcast and Instagram, you know. But my mother passed away, and then I lost a friend, and it just brought me down to a lower level. I thought I was doing so well. Just spent almost a year doing the Joe Dispenza program, and I thought I was doing pretty good. And then these things happened, and I found myself quite in not a dark place, but in a sad place, in a place that was, not healthy necessarily. And so, how do we get through that? You wonder how. How do we pick ourselves back up and start balancing that out again? Well, the way I do it, and I can only tell you how I do it, is I do a combination of things. I definitely put myself in the physical. Like I got on the monorail and went to the Seattle Art Museum, and I do activities that bring me pleasure. That way it reminds me that life is still out there and I'm not stuck in that somber place. I also do a lot of baking. I love sweets, I love cakes, I love pastries, and I always joke around and say these curves don't make themselves, you know what I mean? And so I put myself in the physical. I do things that bring me pleasure. I also listen to comedy a lot or watch drag shows or things like that. Things that bring me pleasure. Spiritually, though, I also have to do some self-evaluation and look at that grief and look at that anger and look at that pain and look at that trauma and go, oh shit, I thought I had faced that, but this is a new thing. And questioning even my friend's death and questioning why my mother never wanted me. I mean, these things just brought me down to this place I hadn't been before, I'd always wondered why my mom didn't love me, but it really hit when she died because, like I said, I always thought I'd have this Hollywood moment with her and we'd be like making peace and, it's just never going to happen. And so you have to come to realization a lot, and that's hard for people. Spirit calls it acknowledge, accept, release, where we acknowledge the situation, we accept it, and then we have to release it. And it's difficult to do and to master it. So spiritually what I do is then I start to meditate. I like Joe Dispenza. That's my thing. I also like Jason Stevenson, and these are all free on YouTube. You can find any meditation that resonates with you. Just because it works for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I always tell people, do what works for you. And these are just tips I'm giving you, I follow, I want to say this, I follow a lot of spiritual groups on social media. And everyone always thinks they have the answer, right? Like, oh, this is what happens when we die. This is what, And I don't think any of it's fact. Like, I'm a psychic medium. I speak to people passed on. I have a general idea of what goes on because of what they tell me. But even I don't know the facts. So be careful. And anything I give you on this channel is just tips. Just things that I do that maybe will help you. Because some people say, you told me to follow this, you suggested I follow this video and I did and it really helped me, but then I found this person through that. And so they find other tools perhaps that will lead them to other things, I hope that makes sense. So do what works for you is what I say. And don't listen to anyone who tries to tell you facts about what happens when we die or facts that, what our spirit is. We don't freaking know. This is all just a journey we're going on, you know what I mean? And we're all just trying to survive is basically it. And what I've learned as becoming from a place of trauma, a neglect, abuse, and sexual assault is as a child and all these things and just one toxic, shitty relationship after another that brought me to this point and how I survived all that without, going into, without relying on addiction, without without making the same bad choices over and over again. Because spiritually, we have to grow. And when we grow spiritually, we learn not to make those choices. And, and I also want to say this. It's okay for people to be alone. Like, some people think, oh, aren't you lonely and alone? No, I was more lonely in all those relationships that the people were lying to me, cheating on me, deceiving me every way they can, abusing me and my children, behind closed doors. Crazy shit, right? And you wonder why I am like I am, right? People wonder. But I think what kept me going was my connection with spirit, was my belief system that we have an energy that helps us, and that energy is inside of me, and I have the ability to create it. And I did that through years of research, how my body works, how my spirit works, how my mind works, and how it all has to work together. That's why they call it mind, body, spirit, right? It all has to flow into that direction, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it curves off into grief and trauma, reliving trauma, or staying in it's just a shitty relationship, whether it be at work or in your private life. And how do we get out of this? And I'll tell you, 5 years ago, I was homeless. I remember sitting in my car in Austin, Texas, in front of a Petco or PetSmart, I can't remember, it was one of those, and saying, what the hell happened to me? I used to be somebody, you know what I mean? But what happened was a lot of bad fucking choices is what happened. A lot of bad fucking choices. Giving my love to people who just didn't deserve it. People who then tried to kill me, literally, and people who killed themselves in front of me. People who did things to me that were so traumatic to my soul that I had no other choice but to go to spirit sometimes. Even from my childhood on, it was just trauma. And so 5 years ago was my breaking point. And long story short, I put down the booze and the drugs, because I didn't even start drinking heavily until that my ex tried to kill me, honestly, and I went through all that. But so that was a short period of time. I kind of went down the sinking hole on that. But before that, I guess I was kind of drinking to bury myself, because I'd do a live psychic show, and then I would just go drink afterwards to forget everything that I just experienced, And when I look back, I guess that was kind of my crutch. But I didn't do it every day or anything, so I don't know. I don't know what that is, but I don't drink anymore, thank God, and I see things clearly. And I learned that drinking does attract darker spirits, and so when I see healers drink, I just kind of suggest to them. I don't tell them what to do. I just say, hey, that it attracts darker spirits, and most really trained healers don't drink. It's just, or do hallucinogenics. We don't even do ayahuasca. We don't do none of that, because we know we can reach those levels without all that. And I can even get darkness on me if I want. I don't need alcohol to do that. So that being said, but alcohol thins that veil. I hope that makes sense. And so those are some of the things that I do. And I had this spout of grief and darkness and, sadness, not evil or anything. And then there was a lot of chaos around my work environment, and all this energy was around me, and it wasn't anyone's fault or coming off of anyone in specific. It was just in the air, I think, for a lot of people this past probably 6 to 8 weeks, Spirit says, even some 9 weeks. And so we've come out of it, we're coming out of it now. And sometimes healers come out of things before non-healers, and so that's why when people come to us, we can say, oh wow, I went through that, so I know what you're saying. And I think that's what's happening right now, is I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I find more peace in things now. I'm like, okay, I'm back to myself. I don't have that anxious energy brewing in my spirit, and I can't control it. Because that will happen sometimes when we hit those triggers, or we are brought back into a place of trauma or pain. It triggers us back to that place that we were so comfortable with, which is that confusion of it. And as healers and as spiritualists and people who've done the work, that really know themselves and know what spirit is trying to do, we know that when we hit those spots, that's when we really should learn how we operate as an individual. Like, what's going to help me get out of this spot? Because it's going to happen again. It's going to happen again in life. And thank you, Spirit. That's what separates the roads from victim to warriors. The people who are victims stay in that energy and allow it to control their lives and blame everyone else and bitch and complain and stay in that misery. And the people who are warriors go, I'm not a victim. I'm going to fight through this. I'm going to battle through this. Lay it on me. I mean, I know for myself, and I've seen other women do it too who are powerful healers. We just go, come on, bring it. Bring all that shit so we can just get it over with and I can get on my path. And Spirit loves that because then they know they've chosen one tough warrior to get their work done. And I think that some of us have to start embracing that, and it's hard, it's hard. Because the world can be very brutal to us. We have soft hearts but tough exteriors because we have to be forceful in the world as healers and show people the power of love and do it in a way that yes, we're here, but also have kind hearts and remember not to judge, even though we all do, and people who say they don't judge are full of shit. But that's not true, because you know what? That's not true. Thank you, Spirit, for reminding me, because I've met a couple people in the world who don't judge, and so they do exist, but they're far and few between. Thank you, Spirit, for that reminder. And Mina, my friend, was one of them. She really didn't judge anyone. She always allowed people just to be who they are, and that's a strong person. I know I don't really look at people to judge. I just kind of might question them sometimes, and I don't know if that's judgment or not. I don't know. Who knows? But we all have flaws is what I'm trying to say. Nobody's perfect. Nobody, is completely enlightened. Nobody has all the answers. We just got to figure out what works for us to get through whatever it is that's keeping us from achieving our dreams and goals, no matter what they are. Because we all know we have them. We all have a vision of what we want, but we either are stuck in a state of mind of poverty. Most people are stuck in the state of mind of poverty because we're just hustling to get by. We're always struggling for money. It's like our relationship with money is very difficult, so you have to learn to understand that money is energy and it can bring you... I mean, I was homeless 5 years ago. You can see my background now. I have a beautiful apartment in the city. I have a job that provides me this beautiful home. I have things that, because I had to change my mindset, you see what I mean? And I still have things to work on, emotional things and things that I'm trying to get through, from the trauma, and I'm trying not to guilt trip myself for having those issues, because we do that too. It's another thing. So you can change, but, let me get back to money. Spirit wants me to tell you, you can change your relationship with money if you want. You can email me for readings with Faye, or I can do a podcast about it, and I can teach you how to do that. And then we have the issue of, blaming others. It's so much easier to blame other people, so much easier to say, it's so-and-so's fault, rather than hold on to responsibility. So you have to take accountability for your life to have it change. You have to change how you think about your life. You have to take accountability for it. You have to change your relationship with money. You have to change your relationship with people. It's all these things, and you have to face your trauma, and you have to face it head on and face those demons head on and say, you know what, I'm stronger than you though, because we're made in the eyes of God. And so imagine what we can do. And that's what my spirit guides would always tell me. Faye, you're made in the eyes of God. You can do anything. And I don't mean God in a religious sense. I mean God in the sense that the God to me, what I've been taught through my spirit, is the highest form of love you can reach, the highest form of energy of that you can achieve is the God light, the God being like God, being pure love and light, and being strength, and knowing your power, and knowing your wisdom, knowing you have the ability to get out of any situation that you're in right now. I've done it myself, and other people have done it, and people who are in the funk, as I call it, the darker, negative energies, they look at people who talk about this stuff like, oh, you can do it, I was there. Oh, they make it look so easy. I'm telling you, it's not easy. It took me years to get to this point, years to understand how my energy worked, years to overcome the trauma. And if you don't have to overcome trauma, yay for you. I mean, that's a blessing in life. So you should be super powerful, you know what I mean? So those of you who are like me and had to overcome a lot of obstacles in the energetic field of life, called trauma and neglect and abuse and also having to be responsible for your own reaction to those things and how you became an abuser and in many levels of your own life like I did, you have to understand that don't beat yourself up, accept responsibility, and move on. That's what makes you a warrior. That's what makes you a strong healer, a strong teacher, a strong light in the world that can be often dark. And darkness comes after the light, and you got to remember that. Get to know what your gifts are and how it affects the world. That's what I had to do too. That's why I am an introvert. I am somebody who, this is my home, so I made it as beautiful as I can because I spend a lot of time here. I have phobia of going outside because I'm so sensitive to the world. But I feel like, and because I've been so attacked by so many people, including other healers, that I just say, fuck that. I don't want anyone in my life because most people are out to get me, you know, and but that's that old trauma. And I'm aware of it and I work with it. And the other day I told my daughter I was so proud of myself because I forced myself to go to the grocery store and I forced myself to smile and just be like, okay, I got this. And that's what we do. We force ourselves to work through those energies that are blocking us from our greatness. Right? We have to, because I have to remember that not everyone in the world is out to get me. It's just I allowed those people in, and now I am very picky who is in my life. Very picky. Because I have to live my life a certain way. And so do some of you. And it's okay. Okay? And that's my message for today. Just know that we're going to hit these bumps. Just when the sun is shining and we think, oh wow, life is going great, we have a winter storm outside. You know what I mean? And that's just the way it is in life. And I have to tell you that more and more people are becoming awoke, so to speak, and I don't even like that word, I don't even know why I used it, but more people are awakening to the power they have within. The star children are growing up and becoming adults, and they're becoming aware of their power, and they're sharing it with the world, and the old crones like me are coming back to life and saying, you know what, Spirit's saying, we're not done with you, girl, get back to work. Get back to work, and so we are, and it's not always easy in this life, but life is beautiful too, and that's one thing that Mina's passing, and you know I talk about Mina's passing, you know, I probably will for the rest of my life, but her tribe of people that were there were so, even though we didn't know each other, were so loving, and I cried in complete strangers' arms. As soon as I walked onto her memorial, I just broke. I mean, I just couldn't help it. And this beautiful woman came up to me and just held her arms, and I cried in her shoulders. And I mean, it was amazing. And it reminded me, and then I met a beautiful couple named Jay and Melanie, and they have a rooster rescue and in Concrete, which is a couple hours away, and it just reminded me that the world is full of beautiful people too. And even though I've been exposed to a lot of dark people in my life, that we have light people in the world too, and we have to find them sometimes. Our light has to connect, man, and we have to find that. And I met beautiful Shakti who's a beautiful belly dancer here in Seattle, and she performs, I believe, in Bothell. I wish I knew the name, but you can find her on Instagram and Facebook. I take photos of her. She's just amazing. And so there are amazing people out in the world, and we got to find them sometimes. And you got to remember, you're going to find shitty ones too. But the more you grow spiritually and the more you become aware of how you operate, you're going to feel those crappy people who aren't on your level, and you can just smile and walk away. You'll see it. I do it all the time. I don't even look at them in the eye because I don't want that energy. And I'm not mean, I'm polite, but I just don't want any negativity. And I have the choice to allow that in my life. And so do you. But as children, see, I was taught as a child I didn't have a choice. And we don't. Children who come from abuse don't have a choice to protect themselves. It's heartbreaking. It's fucking heartbreaking to grow up like that. And so you're just programmed to be on this self-defense mechanism. That's why when people have these lives, they've had good parents, they got to go to college, they have really good jobs, they meet someone like me and they don't even know how to react. And I know it. I can feel it off of them. You know, they were in sororities and everything in their life just worked out great. And then you meet people like me, and of course we don't click because we're on two different levels of energy. And it doesn't mean anyone's better or anything. It just means people have different experiences, and you're going to find people who will resonate with you and people who won't. But the more spiritual you become inside of yourself, and you grow and you face your demons and you face your trauma, the kinder you become to yourself, and the kinder you become in the world, and you know who to give your energy to and you know who not to. That's my point of today's YouTube. And learn to laugh at yourself. My daughter will be driving and I'll just start laughing, and she's like, "What are you laughing about?" I'm like, "Girl, I'm laughing at myself because I start thinking about stuff I've done." So I am ridiculous, you know, and I love it. I've learned, you know, I got to tell you guys something, and I tell the truth, and some people don't like it, and some people don't understand it, but I don't care. I have made the worst choices in partners. I had one good one in my whole life, but that being said, the rest sucked. Every man I was with cheated on me. Except one. And every man I was with just lied to my face. Just had no regard for my love. Had no regard for the home I was creating. Had no regard for the child I bared them. No regard for anything who I was. And that was my whole life. But you have to understand that I allowed them to do that to me. Because as a child, I didn't have love. I didn't have somebody saying I love me. My mother flat out told me I was a piece of shit and no one would ever love me. And so I'm always exceeding this love. You understand what I mean? And so of course I picked the worst people. That's what I was taught to have in my life. And so, what do? Then you stay alone. And I've been alone, and for a while now, and I have to say this is the happiest I've ever been because I don't have to worry about any of that anymore. I have to wonder, are they lying? My instinct was right and they're calling me crazy, that type of thing. You all know, girls, you know. And it happens to men too. It happens to men, but it really happens to a lot of healers because we have that open heart. And a lot of us healers, ironically, come from abusive situations in childhood. It's crazy. But that's what makes us good healers. And the older you get, the more you realize, the more spirit you develop, the more you're going to realize that. We're powerful. Okay. So I'm going to draw some cards. I hope all that made sense. I love you all so much. Thanks for watching. We'll draw some cards for today. What does spirit want to say? And I've been having some fun with myself. I ain't going to lie. I've been watching... As you know, Andy Wood was one of my dearest role models, friends, loves. I loved him as a human being so much. If you knew him, you loved him. He was great. He was beautiful, sexy, the most powerful lead singer I'd ever seen in my life. I swear to you, he would have been a super mega star. And he passed away, but I listen to Mother Love Bone all the time. They're one of my favorite bands. I just love the words. I love the music. I love it. And the other day I have my pink karaoke mic and I was grunge rocking it, going back to my youth. You know, I live in a building that's based around Seattle music scene. And if you come into our lobby, we've got Chris Cornell, Dave Grohl, and all this, Brandy Carlisle, Jimi Hendrix, and it's throughout the whole building. And so it really brought me back to my childhood. I was like, oh my God. And I call my 20s my childhood, but I was in here just rocking out with Andy Wood. It was so much fun. And so do stuff like that. Right? Do stuff like that to remember you're alive, to have some fun with yourself. Go see art. Go to your local art museum and just look at people's creations and feel a different vibe. It's so much fun. Okay. Here we go. What's the spirit say? Look at the bags under my eyes. Look at this. If you watch my Instagram, because I do daily guidance on Instagram, look at least 5 times a week, look at that. We were just talking about the indigo children, the crystal children. You have a bond with children. In particular, you can help children who are sensitive. So I'm telling you, those star children that us old cronies were told about back in the 2000s and late, 1999 to up to 2012 and actually up to 2020, that they're grown up, and we got to help them now. Awesome. But you know what I've learned about them? They help me. They teach me a lot. Okay, so I'm going to draw another card. Prioritize. Oh gosh. Spirit, I know I have to do this. Oh, look, we've got Metatron is working with us on both of these. When the angel shows up, archangel shows up, it happened the other day, that means we're working with that energy. So remember that. Look it up if you need to. Focus on your highest priorities. I will help you get organized and motivated. Metatron is quite popular amongst my spiritual friends because of the fact of how much work Metatron can do for us and guide us into the right direction. So remember that. And now we're going to draw cards. We've got the humpback whale. Now, I love the whale energy because the whale energy is very powerful for spirit warriors. Look at, and I was just talking about Andy Wood singing. Music is essential to your healing and well-being, whether singing, playing an instrument, or listening. What did I just say? That's why when people say, Faye, do you do tarot? No, I don't do tarot because the messages I give from spirit just come to me, right? But the cards help, I guess, or back up what I just said in a reading. So I guess I kind of do. I don't do tarot, I do oracle. And then, or just guidance cards as I like to call them. They're telling me to draw one more. The walrus. I think we drew this one last week on Instagram. Remain vigilant about the current situation. Pay attention to signs and omens. Let them dictate your choices. Now this is, again, we were talking about this, paying attention to your intuition. If you become more spiritual, the more your intuition elevates and the more you become aware of certain situations. Now, here's one thing I noticed, and this is good, Spirit's pointing it out to me. Don't go too crazy on spirit, you know what I mean? I meet people who go into spirit and they're just in la-la land. You can't do that. You always have to stay grounded on earth and just remember that we have to stay that balance. That's why at the beginning of the podcast, I was like, what can we do to balance when we're going through trauma, grief, and stuff like that? Well, what we have to do is balance the physical and the emotional. That's why I got on the monorail and went to an art museum or do baking. I have to bring that physical world into my spiritual to balance it out. And that's when then I meditate in the morning and then I go do physical activity because that's how I operate to balance the energies out. I don't like to go too much into the emotion because then I go into that darker spiritual side where I get down on myself. I get, I had a couple days where I got dark in myself, like, why am I here? I don't belong here, that creep song, because I'm a creep. And so, yeah, it can happen. Then my spirit said, get out of it, get on the monorail, go see some art, go see your son, go to the Pike Place Market, go see your daughter-in-law, and that's what I did. So there we go. That's all I got for you today. Oh, Spirit's saying one more card. And there's somebody out there named Alyssa. And this card might help you. Leadership. But I think it's going to help another person. It is time for you to assume your leadership power and position and lovingly guide others. And I think that goes with all these cards. Teaching, gaining your power, all of that. Trusting, using your instinct. Good news. So follow your heart, follow your path. I hope that helped you today. And remember to love yourself. Don't guilt trip yourself. Remember that you are going to hit hard times in this spiritual journey, in this human journey. It is the way it is, my friends. It ain't easy, but that's what makes us spirit warriors, and that's what makes us strong healers and light beings and keeps us grounded, is that if we know that we are not perfect, we're going to have hard times. We might have to face some demons in our path, but as long as we do it with love and light and know at the end of this there is love for us waiting, everything works out. I swear it does. Look what happened to me. I'm living proof. I love you all, and thanks for watching. Have a beautiful day. Thanks for checking it out. Check out my Instagram. I don't really do TikTok too much. I just kind of feel like, I don't know if that's my vibe. I like Instagram though, so find me on Instagram, The Tattooed Psychic. Thank you so much for watching.